Okay, now when it comes to transport of oxygen, it is the red blood cells which transports oxygen, right? Now what happens? We have our red blood cells. Inside the red blood cells, we have proteins, okay, called hemoglobin in them. Now what happens is the oxygen, they go and they bind with this hemoglobin, okay? So now it becomes
Yeah,
oxyhemoglobin. When the hemoglobin binds with oxygen, it becomes oxyhemoglobin. And now if this is the blood vessel, this is the red blood cell is going to go carry it to some any other place. And now we'll think this is another cell. Okay. So if that is the cell will have the blood vessel. And then if the oxygen concentration in the cell is low, and here inside the blood vessel, the oxygen concentration will be high inside our red blood cell. Okay. So high concentration in the blood vessel and low concentration inside the cell. So the oxygen will diffuse from high concentration gradient to low concentration gradient. Here what happens is when the hemoglobin is bound to oxygen, it binds irreversibly. That means they just attach like holding hands, and then whenever they want, they can just take off their hand and walk away alone. Okay. So now if
yeah,
it can just go into the cell. But sometimes, can you tell me a gas which binds with hemoglobin irreversibly? It's poisonous, it becomes toxic, and we can also die.
mm,
Carbon monoxide gas. Okay.
yeah, it
So
is.
carbon monoxide is toxic if we are going to breathe it for some time, like a certain duration. We can even die. That is because with hemoglobin. Now it is our red blood cell. The carbon monoxide goes and binds irreversibly. Now when they hold hands, they cannot remove again. So this will happen if, just imagine, if this happens to all the hemoglobin in our blood, then will there be hemoglobin in our body to go and attach with oxygen? No. So our oxygen cannot go and
No,
bind with the hemoglobin because all their hands are held with carbon monoxide. So they cannot go and bind.
yeah,
Then our oxygen will not be transported in our body, then we will die. Okay, that becomes fatal. It's so that is irreversible, but here it's reversible. See the sign? So hemoglobin molecule binds with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. Now each hemoglobin can carry up to like 4 oxygen. This is how it look like, hemoglobin molecule. It's a protein. Okay, it's a type of protein. Now if we just see, so though I just drew it as H here, this is how it would look like, one hemoglobin molecule. It has 4 subunits, and then inside each subunit there is an iron molecule, iron, the Fe. Okay, so we have Fe, and then we will have the oxygen gone and binding to this. Okay, so then it binds, it can carry it to one place to another, and then it will dissociate. Okay, clear?
yeah, it is.
So this is how a hemoglobin molecule would look like. It's a very big globular protein. Okay. Now see the structure of the hemoglobin. It is a large globular protein made up of 4 polypeptide chains, each with an iron-containing prosthetic group. So like this, four long chains coming together, and they are held together. In between this chain, we have an iron molecule. Okay, clear?
Yeah, it
That is
is.
how the structure would look like. Each group can collect 4 molecules of oxygen in a reversible process. Okay, each group. Okay, so each ion group can contain like 4 molecules of oxygen, and this is how you write the balanced equation. Now what happens is when the first molecule, now I said there is one chain here, there's the second chain, third chain, fourth chain, and we have the ion attached here. When one oxygen comes and binds to this, the first one, like it can be for any molecule, any chain here, okay? When the first one comes and binds, what happens is all other people, they become flexible. They change the arrangement, and now it makes it easier for the other oxygen molecules to come and easily bind. Understood? The
Yeah,
first
it is.
oxygen molecule binds to the hemoglobin, changes the arrangement of the molecule. That means maybe the chain just moves here and there, okay? A little bit of different arrangement. And then making it easy for the other molecules to bind. So this is one adaptation. We can also just say it as an adaptation in our body. The final oxygen molecules binds 100 times like faster than the first one. Why? When the first one is done, all the other arrangement is done. They are ready to get it because they saw out of their family, if this is 4 chains, they saw the first person getting the oxygen, so all other people are now happy and ready. They get ready soon. So the fourth one here gets it 100 times faster, okay, because they are already ready.
Yeah, Dish.
The same process happens in reverse when oxygen dissociates. Okay, it gets progressively harder to remove, but when it gets removed, it's the opposite. Now I said it's reversible. So whenever they want, hemoglobin oxygen can hold hands. Whenever they don't want, the oxygen will leave and go into the cell, like leaving the hemoglobin behind. Now when it gains oxygen, like when the oxygen comes and binds to the hemoglobin, it is faster, right? So if this is like 1 time, this is like 2 times faster, 3 times faster, 100 times faster. Understood? Just I'm saying it's numbers, okay? But now
Yeah,
think this hemoglobin wants to go out from the sorry, the oxygen wants to go out
oxygen.
from the this thing. So if this happens like 100 times faster, now the other ones become slower. It's the opposite here. Understood? Like 20 times, 10 times, and the last one like will go at a very slow speed. It becomes harder and harder for the oxygen to leave. The same process happens in reversible, but it gets progressively harder to remove the oxygen. Okay.
Yeah, Dish.
Now
So
where
that
does this
means when it's gonna combine, when it's gonna join, it's getting faster, and when it's gonna lose the oxygen, it's getting harder to remove it.
harder to remove? The first one will remove easily while removing, but the last one will take more time to remove.
More
It is
time.
hard to remove. Okay.
Yeah.
Next. So when does this oxygen, where does this oxygen and hemoglobin mostly exchange takes place? Is in two places. Okay. The first one is in the lungs. So we know the oxygen. Now, when I breathe in, when we inhale, oxygen is what goes inside, right? Inside the lungs, we will have our all these,
Yeah.
and then do you know that we have something called alveoli in our lungs?
Yeah, Dish.
So we have alveoli. All whatever the gas what we breathe in mostly contains oxygen. So the oxygen goes in. I will just draw one alveoli here, okay, big. So I have the oxygen gas gone in. And now if this oxygen gas will have tiny, tiny blood capillaries around it. So this, if this is the blood capillary, what happens is the oxygen from the lungs will diffuse into the blood capillary, and then it will go into our red blood cell and bind with the hemoglobin. This person is going to carry this. The blood vessel will maybe is go on and connected to our cells. Like let's think this is our hand cells. So here the blood vessel is connected to the cell. So this will have oxygen. The oxygen will move into our cell where it can bind with oxygen, glucose, and produce energy. Understood?
Yeah, Dish.
Ah. Now, what is happening to the carbon dioxide at that point? At that point, carbon dioxide will be in the blood. From the blood, it will go into our lungs, and then in our lungs, we exhale the carbon dioxide out. Okay?
Yeah, Dish.
Okay, so carbon dioxide is also transported there. So this is where the oxygen gets into our blood, and this is the instance where oxygen is taken out. Now we should see how the oxygen binds with the hemoglobin and gets removed at that point. Okay. So this we
Yeah.
know. Okay, we'll see. Just go through the note. When the blood enters the lungs, the concentration of oxygen is very low in the red blood cell. So if I draw the alveoli and if I draw my blood vessel, they say the oxygen concentration is low here. That is correct, right? Because when we breathe in, oxygen concentration will be higher only in the lungs, not in the blood vessels here. Okay.
Yeah, Dish.
Oxygen moves into the red blood cells from the air in the lungs. What is the process? By
Diffusion.
oxygen diffusion. Oxygen is collected and bound to the hemoglobin. So now, uh, so the free oxygen concentration in the cytoplasm of the red blood cells stays low. Okay, now this point here. If this is the red blood cell, again it is a cell. Just like all other cells, we will have cytoplasm here. And then I have my hemoglobin molecules in my red blood cell, like 4 chains here, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
Dish.
now what oxygen goes and binds with the hemoglobin molecule. It doesn't go and dissolve with the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a jelly-like thing. It doesn't go and dissolve in the cytoplasm. So the concentration of oxygen in the free oxygen in the cytoplasm will be comparatively low. Okay.
Yeah, Dish.
We will have more oxygen only in the hemoglobin part. So the free oxygen concentration in the cytoplasm is low. Okay. Now, when the cytoplasm is low, now think like this. I have my alveoli with oxygen, my blood vessel with hemoglobin here. Okay, so hemoglobin molecule is this. This is my RBC, and this is my cytoplasm of my RBC. Okay, so
Yes.
if oxygen goes and binds with this hemoglobin, there how for oxygen to move from this cell to this cell, what should happen? There should be a higher concentration here and there should be a lower
Low
concentration inside the blood
concentration.
cells also. Now think
Yeah.
like this, in my blood cell, if this is the hemoglobin molecule, if the oxygen doesn't go and bind here, but goes and stays in the cytoplasm, dissolved in the cytoplasm, what will happen? The oxygen concentration will increase here. So the oxygen diffusion rate from outside to the inside will decrease, because whenever there is a very high concentration outside and a very low concentration inside, steeper the concentration, only the diffusion rate will be faster, right?
Yeah, teacher.
So to make sure that happens, to make sure that the diffusion rate to be steeper, our oxygen concentration inside the cytoplasm of the red blood cell will be low. Understood? It is
Yeah,
only bound here. So this place is empty. When this is empty, more and more oxygen will try to go in. But when it goes in, the oxygen molecule, like he will go and like fall in love with another hemoglobin molecule. Okay. So again, this space is empty. So more oxygen can come in. Understood?
yeah, teacher.
It's like that. Because well, now falling in love there means hemoglobin has more affinity. Do you know the word affinity? It has more attraction. Okay. So it has more
Yeah,
attraction towards the oxygen. So it will just attract it, more affinity. Okay, this maintains a steep concentration gradient from air in the lungs to the red blood cells. So more and more oxygen diffuses and joins onto the hemoglobin. That is what I explained to you now. Okay. Now that is what happens in the lungs. Are you clear with that?
yeah,
Oxygen,
teacher.
oxygen from the lungs getting into our red blood cell, and then from that into the hemoglobin. That's it. Now we will see what happens when the oxygen is removed from the hemoglobin and goes into our blood body tissues. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So the oxygen levels in the body tissue will be very low. Now I'll just take this as my hand and this as one cell. So here the oxygen concentration will be low compared to our blood vessel, because our blood vessel will be carrying oxygenated blood. Okay. So oxygen will be here. Now, when there is a low concentration of oxygen in the cell, in that cell, blood cell, sorry, body tissue, and then high concentration here. So, from high concentration to low concentration, oxygen will diffuse by the process called diffusion. Okay,
yeah,
the concentration of oxygen in the cytoplasm of the red blood cell is higher than in the surrounding tissue. Now, when we compare this cell A and cell B, this cell is going to be higher concentration. So cell, it moves here, okay? As a result,
yeah,
oxygen moves out into the body cells by diffusion, by concentration gradient, okay? So the hemoglobin molecules are going to give their oxygen, okay?
yeah, teacher.
Okay, now see a point when we are at rest or exercising gently. Now we are at a normal position, not like doing very high exercise or high activities. Okay. Now, when we are not doing any high activity, do you think our body needs more oxygen or less
No,
oxygen?
less oxygen.
Less oxygen, right? So think like this. This is our blood vessel, and this is my muscles. Okay. Like let's take my biceps and triceps. Do you know what biceps and triceps are? Like my muscles
Yeah,
in my arms. Okay. So think I'm weightlifting or something. And then if I am not weightlifting, if I am in rest position, this muscles no need more and more oxygen, right? When I'm just seated in a place, so only 25% of the oxygen will be going into this, and then the 75% will be staying in the blood. They won't give it, the hemoglobin won't give it. Okay, only 25% of the oxygen is released by the hemoglobin, 75% is reserved in the transport system. So whenever our body gets active, for it to give, so they don't just give it to the cells. But why? If it just gives it to the cell even when we don't need energy, all the oxygen will be just used up to release energy, right? So that's waste of energy. Understood?
yeah, teacher.
Okay, that's it. And then we'll see about the affinity. So there is a graph here. We will see this. This is the oxygen dissociation curve for human hemoglobin. Now understand these terms. Okay, when you understand the terms, nothing to memorize. Oxygen dissociation curve. Dissociate means to remove from something, no?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, so we will see how oxygen gets removed from the hemoglobin molecule. Now we saw in our blood alveoli, and when we had blood vessel here, oxygen was here, hemoglobin was here. They just soon ran and got attached, right?
Yeah.
So when it is getting attached, it is very fast. And then uh, in the blood cells, when they want to remove, if this is the hemoglobin, I'll just draw this as 4 chains. And then when they want to remove the oxygen, I said the first one will remove easily, and then all others becomes harder with time. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
is
teacher.
what we are going to draw in this curve, the oxygen dissociation with hemoglobin. We will see that, okay? So this is the partial pressure of oxygen. That means the oxygen percentage. So here I can say inside the alveoli, the percentage of oxygen is high, here low. And when I compare this instance, in my blood tissues, in my body tissues, I have low concentration of oxygen. In my blood vessels, I have high concentration of oxygen. Okay, so the partial pressure is high here. Are you clear with the term partial pressure?
Yeah, teacher.
Now, percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. That means how much of hemoglobin will go and bind with the oxygen, okay? That is this percentage saturation. Are you clear with the terms?
Teacher, can you tell those two again?
Okay. Partial pressure of oxygen means just like the percentage of oxygen.
Yeah, teacher.
Okay. So if I take this instance, inside my alveoli, I will have high partial pressure. Inside this, I will have low partial pressure, right?
Yeah.
Now, percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen means percentage saturation. That means like binding, saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. Okay, like hemoglobin and oxygen getting bind. That term is called saturation, right? They get saturated, like they get combined. In other words, here in this, I can say combined. Okay, so
Yeah,
how
teacher.
much percentage of hemoglobin and oxygen gets combined is this? So if 50% gets combined, or like we'll see if it's 100% getting combined. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
Now, if I see the curve, see when the partial pressure of oxygen is low, the percentage of saturation of oxygen, hemoglobin with oxygen is also low. When it is when it increases. Okay, we will see that. Now, low partial pressure of oxygen is now. If I just draw the curve like this, or okay, it goes as a sigmoid curve. The actual curve is in this shape. Okay, it is not a directly proportional curve. Okay, this is the shape of the curve. We'll see. Now, in the lungs, what happens? The hemoglobin is going to rapidly gain oxygen, right?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, that is what happens in the lungs. So, here, high partial pressure of oxygen. When the partial pressure of oxygen is high, the percentage saturation of oxygen, hemoglobin with oxygen is also high. Now, it's like this. In the lungs, I had high oxygen, right? So, the partial pressure of oxygen is high. At that time, what will happen? The amount of hemoglobin and oxygen getting attached is also high.
Yeah, teacher.
Understood. That is what is explained here. So see, if this is like 80, again at this point, see this is also high. Understood? So this side is like high partial pressure of oxygen. No? Why?
Yeah,
Now if this
teacher.
is the partial pressure axis, when it goes to this direction, partial pressure increases. So see, when the partial pressure increases, what does my graph show? The percentage saturation has also increased. See? Understood?
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, teacher.
but now when my partial pressure is low, what has happened? The amount of hemoglobin and oxygen holding hands has also become low. Okay, now
Yeah,
in my tissues, we'll take lung tissues. In my lung tissues, the oxygen concentration was low. So inside this, the hemoglobin and oxygen binding is also low, no? Understood?
yeah, teacher.
That is what they are saying. And in the lungs, more oxygen. So the oxygen binding with hemoglobin is high there. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
in the tissues, oxygen saturation is low, so oxygen is released rapidly. Okay, low partial pressure of oxygen means, see, when the partial pressure is low, the hemoglobin binding with oxygen is also less. Now it's like this. See, this is the tissue, okay, and it will have less oxygen. Now, if this is my blood vessel with hemoglobin and oxygen, now do you think when this tissue has low oxygen, these two people will be holding hands? Or will they leave hands and will the oxygen jump into this?
Leave the hand and oxygen will jump.
Yeah, no? So see, when the partial pressure is low in a cell, the hemoglobin and oxygen won't be saturated, won't be holding
Yeah.
hands, they will just leave. Okay. But
Yeah.
when the partial pressure of oxygen is high, then the hemoglobin and oxygen saturation is also high. Just remember those terms, okay?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, now see, we'll go through this. As oxygenated blood approaches the tissues, a small decrease in partial pressure causes a larger decrease in percentage saturation. Okay. A smaller decrease in partial pressure, that means like this. If the oxygen tissue has lesser concentration of oxygen, more and more hemoglobin and oxygen will leave hands and then they will just go in. So there will be a large decrease in saturation, okay? A large release of oxygen,
Yeah, teacher.
okay? Just can you go through all this and see if you're okay with the table, graph and the points?
Okay, teacher.
Okay.
Right, teacher. Done, teacher.
So always when they give you this curve, you just go through the x-axis and y-axis and then try to understand. Partial pressure of oxygen. When it goes like this is high, right? So high means this part should be about the lungs only. Why? We know it partial pressure is high in the lungs. And then the other one should be the opposite. Then it should be in the tissues. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, put the subtopic structure of hemoglobin molecule. Read the textbook also, even with my notes, okay?
Yeah,
So
sure,
that you'll
teacher.
get because when we have seen marking schemes, It goes with the same points whatever is in the textbook, okay?
Yeah,
So I'm giving notes, so like breaking the points so that you can understand structure of hemoglobin. So we can write it short as HP, okay?
yeah, teacher.
Globular protein. So if you want, you can just draw one, the second chain, the third chain, fourth chain. So all this is hemoglobin. You can just mark this as chain 1, chain 2, chain 3, chain 4, and we'll draw an iron molecule in the center. So it can carry 4 oxygen molecules, okay?
Yeah, teacher.
So if I just draw it like this, an oxygen here,
Done, teacher.
okay. So can you leave space to write this equation?
Yeah, sure, teacher.
Okay, now say it's 4 oxygen. And then you can also write this down, this whole thing, the first oxygen molecules. And if you want, you can draw like when I was explaining, I drew it. And then you can say as this is the first point, and the second point you can say when oxygen dissociate, it gets progressively harder to remove the oxygen, the second point. If you want take screenshots, that's easy.
Yeah, teacher. Done, teacher.
Okay, put the topic, movement of oxygen from the lungs into the RBC.
Teacher, I should write those two notes for the hemoglobin part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can write this stepwise, right? So from here, under this topic, you can say oxygen moves into the red blood cells from air. Oh, okay, wait. So just write the first point as by diffusion.
By diffusion?
Yeah, first point is by diffusion, okay? I'm just giving it short. When you're explaining, you should explain it clearly, okay? And then you can say
Yeah.
oxygen moves from lungs into the red blood cell.
Plant tissue.
Next, put the subtopic movement of oxygen into the blood tissues, sorry, body tissues. So transport of carbon dioxide has two form. Can be carbon dioxide gets transported in two forms in blood, okay, or inside our body. So when is this carbon dioxide first produced? It is in the cells when it undergoes respiration. The oxygen what we take in combines with glucose and then releases carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Okay, this energy is ATP. So what happens? This is the process of respiration, okay? So oxygen what we breathe
Yeah.
in is used here. Carbon dioxide is carbon dioxide is toxic. It cannot accumulate in our body, then we will die, okay? It becomes poisonous after a certain extent. So it should be removed. That is why we always keep on exhaling carbon dioxide out, okay, every time. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
So again, it's about the concentration gradient. It will diffuse. We will see. So first, carbon dioxide gets dissolved in the blood and then it forms carbonic acid, that is H2CO3. The carbonic acid separates to form hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions. Okay, so the 5% of the carbon dioxide is carried in the solution in the plasma. So this is how the first, I said carbon dioxide is carried in two ways inside the blood. Okay, So whenever carbon
Yeah.
dioxide is produced, now think like this, I have my blood cell, sorry, I have my body cell, okay, body cell.
Yeah,
This
teacher.
is my hand now. And now I will have a blood vessel here. Whenever carbon dioxide is produced, it can't stay in the cell for a long time. Then it will become toxic, the cells will die. So that is not good. What happens is carbon dioxide gets into the blood. In the blood, what do I have? I have my red blood cell, I can have my platelets, I can have my white blood cells, and also I have plasma, right? So the first
Yeah,
thing
teacher.
what can happen to this carbon dioxide is the carbon dioxide can combine with the water in the plasma. Okay,
Oh, yeah, teacher.
and then form hydrogen carbonate carbonic acid H2CO3. H2CO3 also can break down into bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. So now in my blood I will have H plus and HCO3 minus or H2CO3. Clear? Because this reaction happens
Yeah,
in the blood. And then it can be just transported. So the H plus also just transports, HCO3 also goes all over the body. Now, but we don't have that carbon dioxide. No, carbon dioxide is the toxic person. Clear? So now
yeah,
we have changed him
yeah,
into another form. So now our body is safe. Clear? That's the first form.
yeah.
So about 5% of the carbon dioxide in our blood, this is what happens. Next, the 10 to 20% combines with hemoglobin to form carbaminohemoglobin. And then it is transported. Okay, so that is one, okay? Just like hemoglobin with oxygen, hemoglobin with carbon dioxide forms carbaminohemoglobin. Most of the carbon dioxide is transported in the cytoplasm of the red blood cells as hydrogen carbonate ions. Okay, so this is the second form. That's it. The first form is this, the second form is this. Now, most of the carbon dioxide, I said it can bind with water and form this and then form into bicarbonate ions. So the hydrogen carbonate ions, where can it be also present? It can be also present in the plasma and then also in the cytoplasm of the red blood cells. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
And then now if this is a reaction, always reactions are controlled by enzymes, right? Only then it will happen in a proper speed inside our body. So the enzyme which controls this particular reaction is carbonic anhydrase. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
The carbonic anhydrase controls the rate of the reaction between carbon dioxide and water. Now carbonic anhydrase reacts here, not in this point. Okay. They have just given you only this point reaction enzyme. Clear?
Teacher, can you explain the last part?
The enzyme carbonic anhydrase controls the rate of reaction between carbon dioxide and water to produce H2CO3. Okay, this
Yeah,
reaction
teacher.
is only controlled by carbonic anhydrase. They are not talking about this reaction H2CO3 to this. No. Okay, that is also a reaction that will also have enzymes, but that enzyme is not given in your syllabus. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
In the body tissues, there is a high concentration of carbon dioxide. We know that because more and more carbon dioxide is produced. So carbonic anhydrase catalyze the formation of carbonic acid in the cells. Now we will see that, okay? Now this is what happens. First we'll see the erythrocyte. So from the blood tissues, if this is the tissue in my hand, okay, then I will have my
Yeah,
blood vessel here, okay? So inside my blood vessel, I have my red blood cell. See, the carbon dioxide can diffuse and get into the cytoplasm of the red blood cell. Now, oxygen went into the cytoplasm of the red blood cell and then they got bound to the hemoglobin. Now, here is
yeah.
the carbon dioxide going and binding with the hemoglobin?
What, teacher?
Is the carbon dioxide going and binding with the hemoglobin at this point?
No.
No,
It's
okay, but
binding with
again,
the water.
yeah, and then that happens in the cytoplasm, okay? It binds with hemoglobin
Yeah.
also to form carbaminohemoglobin. That's a second reaction. Clear? So this happens in the
Teacher,
if this is the red,
this
I
is
mean,
lagging.
okay, wait. See if it's okay.
Yeah, teacher.
Okay. Now it's this. If this is the red blood cell, the carbon dioxide can come, bind with hemoglobin and become carbaminohemoglobin. That
Yeah.
happens to 10 to 20% of the carbon dioxide. The rest 5% of the carbon dioxide comes into the red blood cell and then in the cytoplasm, it binds with water to form this. This breaks to form this. Clear? Two
Yeah,
things can
teacher.
happen. Those are the two things that happen. Okay, now that is only given here in the diagram. See, this from the tissue cells, carbon dioxide enters into the cytoplasm of the red blood cell. Carbon dioxide passes into the plasma and red blood cells by diffusion. It combines with water to form carbonic acid, catalyzed by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. So this reaction can happen in both, but they have just shown in the erythrocyte. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
Carbonic acid dissociates to give hydrogen ions and hydrogen carbonate ions. That is the second reaction what they have shown. Okay. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens to these ions after they form. Okay, there should be something happening. No, they can't just be inside the red blood cell forever. Okay. See, the
yeah,
hydrogen carbonate ions pass out of the red blood cells by diffusion. And at that time, chloride ion moves in. Okay, this is called the chloride shift. This is what happens to the bicarbonate ions. And then we have the H plus ions, right? H plus ions uh, bind with hemoglobin and form hemoglobinic acid to avoid changing of the pH of the blood. Okay, now what will happen when more and more H plus is released? Do you know that H plus increases means acidity increases?
sorry,
Acidity,
teacher.
acidity basicity.
Yeah, teacher.
So when H plus ions increase, it means acidity increases, right?
Acidity increase.
So
Yeah,
here,
teacher.
whenever hydrogen carbonate is going to release H plus and hydrogen carbonate ions, okay,
Yeah, teacher.
sorry, carbonic acid is going to dissociate to release hydrogen ions and hydrogen carbonate ions. It is not a good thing to have more and more H plus in the red blood cell. Then what will happen? The acidity of the red blood cell will increase. So to avoid that, the H plus binds with hemoglobin again to form hemoglobinic acid. Now the pH of the blood is constant. This is what happens to H plus and bicarbonate. Clear?
Yeah, teacher. It's
Sure.
little confusing.
Which one is
Little
confusing?
confusing.
Okay, now we will see this. We are talking about transportation of carbon dioxide. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
So 5% of carbon dioxide can go into the plasma,
And
bind with water
yeah,
to form carbonic acid.
yeah,
This
teacher.
carbonic acid can further break down to form H plus and HCO3 minus ions. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
This
teacher.
reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. No?
Yeah,
Carbonic anhydrase. Now, this can happen in the plasma, or else this can also happen in the red blood cells cytoplasm. So, the carbon dioxide can get into the red blood cell, and in the red blood cell, the cytoplasm can have water, right? So, it can
yeah, teacher.
bind, and then it can form H2CO3. The H2CO3 again breaks to form H plus and CO3. HCO3 minus ions. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
Now in this H plus and HCO3 minus doesn't stay in the red blood cell forever. Okay. This
Yeah,
HCO3 minus goes out of the bicarbonate, out of the red blood cell. And in place of, and at that time another ion comes in. That is chloride ion. So this is called chloride shift. So something called chloride shift happens. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
And then there is another thing happening. Now this H plus whatever is produced combines with hemoglobin because we have hemoglobin inside the red blood cell now, and they
yeah.
become HHV. So that
Oh,
because when H plus increases inside the red blood cell, the acidity can differ now. To reduce
yeah,
that, all the H plus go and binds with hemoglobin and form
hemoglobin.
hemoglobinic acid.
Yeah, teacher.
Okay. This is what happens. And then for the rest of the 15 to 20%, those carbon dioxide, they just go and bind with hemoglobin and form carbaminohemoglobin. That is again this. If this is the red blood cell, we have hemoglobin, the carbon dioxide goes in and then forms carbaminohemoglobin.
Yeah, teacher. Now I understood.
Okay. If you want to have a screenshot, and then you can write it on your own. Take it. Or if you want to take it down now, take it down.
Okay, teacher.
In a way you can understand.
Yeah.
Okay, before that, we'll just come to this diagram. This is what is again said here. So read this whatever the notes present in the boxes and see if you understood that now.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, teacher. Just wait, teacher. Done, teacher.
Okay. Okay, so did you put the topic transport of carbon dioxide?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, write the first point. 5% of carbon dioxide is carried in solution in the plasma. Okay, and then you can say carbon, second point, under that itself, carbon dioxide is dissolved in the blood. It reacts with water to form carbonic acid. The carbonic acid separates to form this, and then you can write the reaction. Okay, so that's the first way. And then the second way, so in the first way, we have 3 points to write with the reaction. And in the second, you can write 10 to 20% of carbon dioxide combines with hemoglobin to make carbaminohemoglobin.
Yeah.
That's the second one. Understood, right?
Yeah, teacher.
Mm.
Then teacher.
Okay. And then you can write the other star marks. So that's it, okay? The two ways,
Yeah,
5% is this, 10 to 20% is this, and then you can say enzyme carbonic anhydrase controls the rate of reaction. Just take down that enzyme name.
teacher, what you said to take down?
You can say the enzyme carbonic anhydrase controls the rate of reaction.
Oh,
Okay. And then you can also leave space to draw this, and then you can draw the chloride. Talk about these two, okay? This box and
I
this
have
box.
to. Oh, only that two boxes, right,
Yeah,
teacher?
the others we have written it as the note. If you want, you can take it down, or else just only these two notes. And I think you can understand this diagram now. Whatever I drew in the whiteboard is here. If you want, take a screenshot of this also.
Yeah, sure, teacher.
So leave space for all that.
Yeah, teacher.
And let me know to move to the next one.
Okay, teacher. Done, teacher.
Okay, so that's it about transportation of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Understood?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, now put the topic Bow effect.
Done,
Write this,
teacher.
I'll explain.
Done, teacher.
Okay. So now there's something called Bow effect. Here we start now. Here is the change in the oxygen dissociation curve. We know the oxygen dissociation curve. We drew it something like this. Can remember? No, it was the
Yeah,
other way.
teacher.
No, it was the other way.
Other way, yeah.
Okay, it was the other way. So when the oxygen, this is the percentage oxygen, and this was the partial pressure of oxygen, and this was the saturation of oxygen, right? With hemoglobin. Okay. Now this is the normal curve. This is the shape of the curve. First, when it is low, this also will be low. When this is high, this also will be high. That we studied. You know why that happens. Okay. Now this graph, the shape of the graph can move forward or like can move to the right.
Teacher?
I'm lagging. Am I okay now? Do you have the screenshot of the note what I typed?
No, teacher.
That's okay.
I just had the last screenshot, that bow effect screenshot. No.
Do you have the bow effect screenshot?
Yeah, teacher, you gave 4 points.
Yes, can you send me that now?
Yeah, sure, teacher.
Okay, so the bow effect tells us the oxygen dissociation curve, which is like this. The change in the oxygen dissociation curve when the carbon dioxide level changes. So when the level is high, it moves to the right. See, it has come down. And then when the level is low, when the carbon dioxide level is low, it will be the same shape, but it will move up. Understood?
Yeah, teacher.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. So we will see why that happens. Okay. Now, when
yeah,
the carbon dioxide in the tissues is high, okay, in the tissue, carbon dioxide is high. Okay. Now, what will happen to the affinity of hemoglobin with oxygen? Now, when the carbon dioxide is high there, do you think hemoglobin and oxygen will be holding hands here? Or will the oxygen go, okay, that person has more carbon dioxide, so I should go and give him oxygen? Kirla, will he go or what will happen?
it will stay.
Now, see dear, this is the cell. This has more carbon dioxide. That means less oxygen, no?
Yeah, teacher.
So
So
this
it will.
is, it will go, right? Do you get it?
Yeah, yeah, teacher.
So the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen is reduced. Affinity means the attraction here is reduced. Clear?
Yeah, teacher.
So see, when the carbon dioxide concentration is high, the saturation with uh, oxygen, oxygen and hemoglobin decreases. If this is the original curve what we studied, see it has decreased, no?
Yeah,
Okay,
teacher.
understood that and understood why it reduced?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay. Hemoglobin needs higher levels of oxygen to become saturated. Okay. Now, I said when there is lesser amount of oxygen or more amount of carbon dioxide, this loses affinity. Now, when will it become saturated? That is when there is less carbon dioxide and more oxygen, no? Then he will be holding hands. He will not leave. Now, think an instance like this. I have a cell with high oxygen. Then what will happen to this hemoglobin and oxygen? Will they leave? Will this oxygen also go inside?
No, teacher.
No, he won't go. That is what is said here.
Yeah,
Hemoglobin needs higher levels of oxygen. If the levels of oxygen is high, they become saturated. Okay?
yeah, teacher.
Ah. So in active tissues with high carbon dioxide levels, hemoglobin releases oxygen more readily. Okay? In active tissues. Like when there is more carbon dioxide here, that means less oxygen. So hemoglobin releases oxygen more easily. Right? He is going to
Yeah,
leave oxygen and go there. Carbon dioxide levels in the lung capillaries are relatively low, which makes it okay. This is the Bow theory, okay? The Bow effect, if they ask you what the Bow effect is, you should just tell from here to here. And you can also say, now see, as the carbon dioxide in the environment rises, that is when in the cell the carbon dioxide rises, hemoglobin curve moves down to the right. So now the oxygen will be given up easily.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Now see dear, I'll just take one line like this. Here if it's 50, okay. So
Yeah, it is.
the green color thing is when the carbon dioxide is high, only 50% they are holding hands. Okay.
Yeah.
Oxygen and hemoglobin. Ah, now we will see when the same thing, okay? Same level, but when the carbon dioxide level is low, okay? See,
Yeah.
they are holding it like up to 90%. 90%, 90%. Like 90% force, they are attracted. Clear?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So when the carbon dioxide level is low, they are attracted more. When the carbon dioxide level is high in the cells, it is less, okay?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, leave space to draw this. Mark it ABC and then you can also just mark this. Okay?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I think you're okay with the points. Can you just read the points and see if you're okay in the screenshot one?
Okay, it is.
Are you clear up to that?
Wait, it is.
Okay, okay. Through this question so that you'll know how you can get questions. The diagram below shows how most carbon dioxide is transported. What is the name of the cell represented by the circle? Where does carbon dioxide go in? Inside which cell does it go in? And this reaction, where does it happen? Out of A, B, C, D.
In the white red blood cell.
So what's the answer?
Erythrocyte?
Erythrocyte. Okay, so this happens in the red blood cell now, so it's erythrocyte. What is the name of enzyme E?
Enzyme E. Anhydrous carbonate?
No, it was
No,
carbonic and
anhydrous anhydrase. Anhydrous anhydrase.
no,
Carbonic anhydrase.
carbonic anhydrase, right? It was carbonic anhydrase. Carbon dioxide plus water giving H2CO3.
Yeah, teacher.
Okay. Name the substance S.
Uh,
Now they're asking to name it, not the formula.
yeah.
So H2CO3, is it called carbonic acid? Yes, no? It was carbonic acid.
Yeah, teacher.
Okay. Identify ion I.
That means I should name it, teacher?
Yes. No, identify. You can just write it. Or you can also name it. Anything is correct there.
There's two parts now, teacher.
Yeah, it's two parts. Now this is H2CO3 Ss. We don't know this, but we know this. So one part is given. Clear?
Oh, yeah, teacher.
So what should be I?
So it should be HHB. That means hydrogen.
No, dear. Iron. Iron means contains
H plus and
H
HB.
plus. No, it's H plus, okay? Because this is H2CO3. H2CO3 becomes H plus and HCO3 minus, no? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
H
teacher.
plus only binds with HB to form HHB. Okay. But this
Yeah,
is a molecule. Iron means it should have a plus charge or a minus charge on top. And then see the bicarbonate, it moved out. And then what comes inside? Cl minus comes in. And then what
hydrogen.
is this? No. Chloride ions comes in, no? And what is this process called?
So can you explain it again?
Okay. Now what happens? See, these both react to form H2CO3. H2CO3 breaks to form H plus and bicarbonate. So
Yeah,
bicarbonate was given in the paper, but this is the compound I. So we should find out that I should be H plus. Okay.
H plus. Yeah,
Ah,
teacher.
that H plus becomes HHB by binding with HP, but that is not given in that question.
Yeah,
Ah, this HCO3 minus goes out, no?
yeah.
And then what comes in for that?
HB. That means
No, no,
hemoglobin.
no. Hemoglobin comes inside. No, hemoglobin doesn't come inside, no, dear. It's a red blood cell. It will be already present inside, no.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come in. So when this HCO3 minus goes out, who comes in? Here,
Cl.
Cl minus moves in,
Yeah.
and this process is called chloride shift. Okay, that is just another process
Yeah.
happening. Now, when H2CO3 breaks to form H plus and hydrogen carbonate ions, what happens to H plus? They go and bind with hemoglobin to form HHB, and this is the
Yeah.
reason for that. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the bicarbonate ions, whatever was formed, they just move out. For that place, Cl minus comes in, and then that process is called chloride shift. That's it.
Yeah, teacher.
So those things are not given in the paper in this question. In this particular question,
Yeah.
it's not given. So now, if they ask you the ion I, it should be just H plus. Okay.
H plus. Yeah, teacher.
Okay. Next question. If ion I is allowed to accumulate inside the cell, it could affect the functioning of the cell. Describe how the accumulation of ion I is prevented.
I didn't get that question, teacher.
Okay, read it again and just see. See if you just read it once or twice and see. No.
Right, teacher. There's in the textbook it tells that teacher hemoglobin act as a buffer accepting the hydrogen ion to form hemoglobinic acid to avoid change in the pH of the blood.
Yes, that should be the answer. Okay, now they say that if H plus gets accumulated inside the cell, it is not good.
Yeah.
Why? Because the acidity will increase, so the cell won't
Yeah.
function properly. So how is the accumulation prevented? The H plus ions binds with hemoglobin to form hemoglobinic acid, and therefore that and that happens. Likewise, you should explain all what you said now. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, teacher.
Okay. Question 2. What's the answer?
Explain the effect that accumulation of iron I has on transport of oxygen.
What will happen when the acidity increases? They are asking. If accumulation of H plus ions increase, what will happen to the transport of oxygen? It will decrease, okay?
Yeah,
Because
teacher.
more and more H plus inside the cell. Do you think there will be enough space for hemoglobin? Now, when more and more H plus is there inside the cell, do you think enough amount of oxygen come and bind to the hemoglobin? You can just say no space because now this was not given in the syllabus, no? Was not
Yeah,
in the note. So you think and just write it. You can say when there is more of this, no space for oxygen to come inside. Oxygen carrying capacity will decrease. So the transport of oxygen can decrease, no?
yeah, teacher.
Okay, even if not, see, when something new happens, what will happen to transport of oxygen? It will decrease, right?
It will
It's a bad
decrease.
thing. So you should only think and relate the answer and write it at that point, okay? Don't
Yeah,
expect
teacher.
everything to come in this, okay? Okay, good. So Bohr effect, are you okay with Bohr effect and then transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide, what we learned today?
Yeah.
Okay, now put the topic fetal hemoglobin.
Okay.
So what do you understand by the word fetal?
Uterus?
Yeah, the uterus. Uterus is different. What is fetus? The small baby inside the stomach, okay? Not the stomach,
Yeah.
the uterus. Where does the baby form? Is it inside the stomach?
No.
No, stomach is the digestive system, okay?
Yeah.
That is different. Uterus is the
Yeah.
reproductive system. We have something like this, and then we have the fallopian tube, the ovary, and all that, okay? So here is where the baby stays, not in the stomach. Stomach is totally a different organ where only food passes through. There is no connection.
Yeah, teacher.
Okay? So fetus gets oxygen from mother. From what organ? Do you know placenta? There is something called placenta. Placenta is the tube which carries substances from the mother to the fetus and to the fetus to the mother, okay?
That peccanial thing, right, teacher?
Which one, dear?
That in Sinhala that tells us peccanial.
That what they cut when the delivery is done. That is
Yeah.
umbilical cord. No, umbilical cord is different. Both are different, okay? Placenta and umbilical cord is different. We'll see. Placenta is connected to the umbilical cord and then to the mother. Do you get it? Now it's like
Yeah,
this.
teacher.
Wait, I'll show. Now see, this is the fetus. Okay, this is what you say, that umbilical cord, what they cut it. Okay, and then we have it
Yeah.
here. See, this is connected to the placenta. Placenta is connected to this bag-like thing. Now what happens
Yeah.
is the food, the oxygen, anything. Food means not the whole food, the pizza, burger, everything doesn't come. It comes as glucose, amino acids, all those small units. Okay.
Yeah, teacher.
So the oxygen, okay, we'll just take it as oxygen. So oxygen is first in the placenta. Placenta is again another organ, like a disc-like thing. Wait, let me show you a real placenta. Here, this is how the placenta would look like, just like a piece of meat. Okay, and
Oh.
this whole tube, white color tube, is the umbilical cord. So here, first the oxygen will be here, then the oxygen will be transported into this tube. Now the tube is connected to the baby fetus now. Then the fetus gets it. Okay. Now, if
Yeah,
carbon dioxide has to go out, carbon dioxide from the fetus goes into the umbilical cord, from the umbilical cord into the placenta, and then connected to the mother. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, see, this is what we cut. And here we have the placenta. After the delivery, the placenta also comes out, okay? From the,
Oh.
with the baby, placenta also comes out. Placenta is, now we don't have placenta. Now we are not pregnant now. So when a woman is not pregnant, she does not have placenta. Only when she gets pregnant, just like when in the early stages, the placenta develops, okay, in the body.
Oh. Okay, teacher.
Okay. Okay. So fetus gets oxygen from the mother. So here they are not mentioning about umbilical cord, but again, placenta means through the umbilical cord only it comes, okay? Clear?
Yeah, teacher. Yeah.
I'll write the next point. Now, what is the component pigment which carries blood in our body? Pigment, not the cell. I'm asking the pigment.
Plasma?
No. Which carries oxygen.
Pigment that carry.
Hemoglobin, right?
Oh, yeah, teacher.
Hemoglobin. So just like that, but in fetus, there is a different type of hemoglobin. We call it fetal hemoglobin. Okay. Now, when we consider fetal hemoglobin and I have the normal hemoglobin, this is more attracted to oxygen than this. Okay. So that so that fetus can get oxygen easily. Now, that is because now we directly breathe in oxygen, right? That is okay. Now here from the mother, the baby should get it right. So here this fetal hemoglobin, now think like this. hemoglobin is present in the mother. Fetal hemoglobin is present in the fetus. Okay, so who should be more attracted to oxygen? This person, right? Or else this is going to be more strong and he's going to get all the oxygen and the fetus is going to die. Understood? So
Yeah.
fetal hemoglobin has more affinity to oxygen. Understood that point?
Yeah, teacher.
Remember that. Can you remember we learned that there should be more amount of oxygen for the hemoglobin to get attracted to oxygen. Now it's like this. When we take alveoli, okay, we had oxygen and then we had the blood vessel with hemoglobin and the red blood cell. Okay. So for this oxygen to come into this, there should be more amount of oxygen here and less concentration. So from a high concentration to low concentration, the oxygen moves through diffusion. Can remember? In the lungs. Can't hear you.
So it is my Zoom got connected.
Okay. Now we saw in the lungs we have oxygen inside the alveoli, high concentration, and then low concentration in the blood vessel. So oxygen moved from high concentration to low concentration.
Yeah, teacher.
Okay. Now when there is a more steeper concentration gradient, what happened? The diffusion is easy, right?
Yeah, teacher.
But in the fetus, it is different. Even if the oxygen concentration is very low here, like now we'll think this is the mother. Okay, I'll just draw it like this. So this is the mother. Even if the oxygen is low, the fetal hemoglobin can take it. Understood? Even with a lower uh, concentration gradient. Clear? Here, only if it is high and very low, then oxygen will readily diffuse. Here it's not like that because the fetal hemoglobin is has more affinity. So even when it sees a very small amount of oxygen, it is going to take it in. Okay, this hemoglobin is not like that. Only when there is very high amount of oxygen here, he's going to take the oxygen molecule to him. Okay,
Okay. Yeah,
clear?
teacher.
Fetal hemoglobin has a higher affinity for oxygen than adult hemoglobin. See if you understood the last point, this fetal hemoglobin thing. Even when the proportion of oxygen is low, even if oxygen is low here inside the mother, the fetal hemoglobin can take it. Not like adult hemoglobin. Adult hemoglobin has to have high oxygen here and then less oxygen here. Understood the last points?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, can you take a screenshot? We'll move to the next one.
Yeah, spread teacher. Done, teacher.
Okay, so just leave space. Along with that, I want you to write this also. The maternal and fetal blood run in opposite direction. Okay, so this makes the
Yeah.
oxygen concentration gradient between the mother's blood and the fetus steep. So oxygen transfer is high.
Yeah.
So if they ask you adaptations of fetal hemoglobin to take in oxygen, you can write the first one as it has high affinity for oxygen than adult hemoglobin. And then you can also say even when the proportion is low, it can take in oxygen easily. And this is the third adaptation of fetal hemoglobin. Understood?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, after writing those points, whatever I underlined, you can just
Teacher,
take.
can you teach just
Yeah,
the underline part?
just only this.
Teacher, it's in the recording, right?
Yeah, it's okay. Take it down. Take it down. Take it down means mark it. So that's the
Okay.
last point you should write.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, and then can you put a subtopic like this? Adaptations of fetal hemoglobin. Okay, to carry for maximum efficiency. And there is 3 points, no? Go through that and take it down separately.
What 3 points, teacher?
Tell me what are the adaptations of fetal hemoglobin to increase the affinity of oxygen. Now, whatever we learned from that. So all this time we were studying about fetal hemoglobin. Tell me what are the adaptations of it out of that. See, it has a higher affinity for oxygen than adult hemoglobin. That is one adaptation.
Yeah, teacher.
And then the next one, it can even remove oxygen from less proportion of oxygen, no? Not like
Yeah,
adult. That is the second one. And then this is the third one. The maternal and the fetal blood run in opposite direction. So that is another adaptation present in the fetus.
so teacher, why you said to write those 3 points differently?
Again, so that is like adaptation of the fetus, no? If there is a question coming asking how is the fetus adapted to exchange a gas, then you can take it down. Understood?
Oh.
Like you should explain all these 3 points. Clear?
Yeah, teacher.
No, it's the same thing. I have just given you as a question and then again writing all this. Okay. Clear up to that? Sure?
Yeah, teacher.
Okay, now we will see this graph. So this is fetal hemoglobin and the normal hemoglobin, the partial pressure of oxygen and saturation with oxygen percentage. So this is oxygen plus hemoglobin here and the percentage of oxygen. So A says the normal hemoglobin. See, when the normal hemoglobin has a oxygen percentage of 6, okay, it's
Yeah, teacher.
somewhere around 90% attracted, oxygen and hemoglobin, okay.
Yeah, teacher.
But see, when the oxygen percentage is 6, the fetal
100.
hemoglobin is somewhere around 100. Got it?
Yeah, teacher.
Their oxygen to hemoglobin affinity is higher always. And
yeah.
now see, the graph shape is also different. This is a different graph, okay? So if they ask you the...
Are they asking me to draw the graphs?
Sometimes, no, they will give you the graph and only they will ask you, okay? But sometimes they can tell you this. They can give you the graph A and tell you to draw graph B. Like even in this, it's the same. They can give you one and tell you to draw the B and C or A and C likewise.
Yeah, teacher.
Yeah, that can happen. But always be, now these 3 graphs are important, today's ones. So all that is okay. Okay, do you have any questions up to that?
No, teacher.
So study this, take note. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
sure,
it. So
teacher.
shall we finish it with that today? And
Yeah,
next
teacher.
class is on Saturday and Sunday. We can have 3-hour sessions, okay? On weekend.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, dear.
Okay,
Bye.
teacher. Thank you, teacher. Bye, teacher.